Good Saturday evening to everyone. Welcome back to the Nerd Council of Doom. I am hosting this week on my channel, which you know if you're here, of course. And I am joined by Yang Yan Zhao. You know him from his own channel, which is linked in the description below. Go subscribe right now. Just to open another tab, wrench a friend's phone out of their hand and log into your YouTube account and sign on that way. And of course, Dungeon Minister, likewise, do the same. But welcome, everybody, to our Saturday gathering of great critical minds on all topics, entertainment, edutainment, fun, and so on related. And so, with that said, folks, what is going on? What is happening? Yang, what's new with you?
It's been a fantastically interesting week. Are you talking about personally or just in the news in general?
Personally, we can get to the news in a minute.
Well, for anyone who's interested, Tuesday morning I had Mark Miller, author of many comics, creator of the Miller World. You may know him from movies such as Wanted or Kick-Ass. So he was on for a little bit, and it was a fun show. And then I got to talk to a guy who I like to, but don't get to very often because I believe he's in Australia. A guy named CJ the Young. He's making a game called Cloudbreaker Alliance, tabletop role-playing game. It's a lot of fun, but he's very interesting because he's sort of a connection, eats meets west kind of guy. So we talked about the differences in, like what differences in playing games with a Western crew versus Eastern, and what sort of game topics they like. So it's very interesting.
Cool. Right on. And Padre, how about yourself? I guess you're down in the weeds because we're closing up on Claricon too, right?
Well, it's out there, end of October. The plans are still relatively fluid in that I've got plenty of wiggle room to do stuff, but we're closing in on it, and I'm on vacation at the moment, so you wouldn't know it because I just got back from doing a funeral, and I'm doing another one on Monday. But death doesn't really take holidays, so. But other than that, I'm on vacation. Went down yesterday to see the HCMS Haida warship. It's a destroyer. It's berthed in Hamilton, Ontario, and it's always a lot of fun. We went there years ago when the boys were real young, and so we went again so that they might see it again for the first time, if you will. That was a lot of fun. Especially there's a gentleman there, a radio operator. He's sitting in the radio room, and he gave a whole spiel about as far as we knew when we left that room, the radio operators were the most important people on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
The captain, no, the gunners, no. The engine room, no, it's the radio. It was a lot of fun. And then we went on from there to Niagara Falls. So not a lot of hobby news. I mean, we've been playing, and I've been editing, and I'm going to be playing in Mage's Musings game on Sunday. So that's
excellent.
But, that's what I'm up to.
Well, as for myself, I mean, you mentioned vacation. I'm just back. This week was my first full week back. We played through the week. I took the previous week off, and with the exception of one video, there was kind of a tumultuous bit of news over the couple of weeks, and we'll touch on that in just a little bit. But it was pretty standard week for me, really. Monday returned to flight. Tuesday we played AD&D. Wednesday Kyle was out, so I had a couple interesting guests. T-shirted Historian was on, and we talked about the goodness that is AD&D on Wednesday. And then Thursday, I had Stephen Radney McFarland was on. He's an interesting guest. He's a Wizards of the Coast vet, but he's also very much into the old school D&D. So we talked a lot about how to fix all the problems in the world, like you do when you get together with your friends. And last night we had a lot of fun playing some Gamma World. Yang got a new character introduced last night. That was a blast. I got to do my best mock Chuck Heston when Yang came out of his survival bunker, and instead of seeing the verdant green fields of southern Wisconsin, came out into a radioactive wasteland. So that was a blast. And
he was in Illinois.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, Chicago, you maniacs. But other than that, let's see, that was just about it. Emmy is hectoring me. Invite them to Only Elves. Do you want me to give your Only Elves account out, Emmy? But anyway, no, Elven Maid, and she has an absolutely great zine that she's doing. Have you guys read her zine?
I haven't yet.
I have not.
It is really, really, really good old school stuff. Richard Witters, who is an amazing artist who worked for Wizards of the Coast. He did Magic, and he did D&D 4th and 5th edition artwork. I know the guy. Had him on stream, have live streamed with him with Tim Imholt. Richard donated the cover artwork for her first issue. I'm interviewed in it, if I may be so bold as to say. So yeah, you should definitely check that out. There is a piece of tabletop gaming news right off the bat. Check out Elven Maid Inn's release. But anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much everything that was that was going on with me. And there's been a lot of entertainment news happening, and unfortunately a good chunk of it's not real happy. I guess maybe we rip the Band-Aid off and get into that straight away. Guys, do you want to, if we want to, gentlemen, fellow councilmen, shall we?
Now you're talking about the death of Richard Simmons?
Many passings. Yeah. And I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk about Richard Simmons in just a minute, but this wasn't terribly recent, but this happened between our shows. The great Donald Sutherland. I mean, my gosh, we could devote an entire show just to talking about the body of work of Donald Sutherland, because he worked in virtually every genre. And the man was in Westerns, war movies, science fiction, horror, drama, voiced over documentaries. I mean, just a titan in the industry. And I think probably one of the best tributes that could ever be given, of course, his son's Kiefer Sutherland. And he said that when he played his role in Dark City, he studied his father's films. So if you guys have ever seen Dark City,
fantastic,
amazing. Have you seen Dark City, Padre?
I may have. There was a period in the university. It was just post. So I don't know how old the movie is.
90s.
I watched like 1.5 million movies. I had cable back then, and I just and movie channels and stuff, and so we just consumed.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was one of them, to be perfectly honest.
No, that's fine. But Kiefer channeled Donald Sutherland just expertly in that, and not that Sutherland himself didn't stand on his own. Just amazing, and he will be missed. I can't think of a bad film that Donald Sutherland did. I mean, maybe there's some that I wouldn't watch just because the genre doesn't appeal to me. But I'm sure if I sat down and watched Day of the Locust, which is not a horror movie, it's not a kaiju film. It's actually just a serious drama. I would watch that just for his chops. And so that was in late June. And Shannon Doherty
Yeah.
Shannon Doherty. She was in Beverly Hills 90210, but I knew her primarily for Charmed, when my wife was pregnant with and just after the birth of my first daughter. She was at home. She binged Charmed. I can't remember a day when this show wasn't on. And Miss Doherty was, I believe she was 55, possibly 56. I'd have to go and look.
Didn't she get fired from Charmed? She did.
She did.
90210.
Yeah, there was a lot of drama around her life, but I mean, I try not to immerse myself in the, oh my gosh, this actor behaved badly on set things in Hollywood, because if you get a bunch of people who decide they don't want that they don't like you in that business, they'll dig up anything, so and that's not what we're really here to discuss. So Miss Doherty, she fought cancer for a long time, and it unfortunately it's kind of a losing battle. And continuing on, of course, the lovely Shelley Duvall, that was a blow. That was a blow. Shelley Duvall, of course, everybody knows her as Wendy Torrance in the absolutely excellent film adaptation of The Shining.
Yeah.
She played Olive Oil in Robert Altman's Popeye.
That's the one I saw her first in because I was a kid. And then in Roxanne, she was the friend in Roxanne.
Yeah, that's right. I wanted to see Popeye when I was a kid. I was excited about seeing it, but for some reason the parents were just not really interested. So I didn't see it till years and years and years later.
No.
Tim Imholt says, who else could have played Olive Oil? Absolutely correct, Tim.
Yeah.
But she was lovely and talented, and who else could have played Wendy Torrance? Really? I mean, can you picture anyone else in that role? Although Stephen King wasn't happy with the film version of The Shining at all, but and his thoughts on her were rather unkind. But I think The Shining film is a superb movie. And it's a superb book, but for completely different reasons. Now, this one, I promise you. So let me ask, Yang, do you know who this is?
I am not sure.
Okay. Dungeon
Mr.
Minister.
Styles.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Styles.
It is Mr. Styles.
But I can tell because the file name is up in the corner.
Oh.
I have no idea.
I was just teasing. No, this is James B. Sicking. He was a fantastic character actor. Most people, I would think, would know him from Hill Street Blues, but he played in the science fiction genre a lot. Of course, he was in Star Trek VI. He was in Outland. He played opposite Sean Connery in Outland as the corrupt cop on the mining base of Io, known as Officer Montone. He was very talented. I loved him in Outland, loved him in Star Trek. I was not a huge Hill Street Blues fan, but the little bit I watched, he was a neat and interesting character. I really enjoyed what I saw him in, and he's in a rather interesting sort of quasi ghost science fiction film. I think it pays a lot of homage to some occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge called Vanishing Point, about an SR-71 pilot who has an in-flight accident and wakes up in what he thinks is a brainwashing center. Perhaps he's been captured by the Soviets, but I won't spoil it. You should definitely check it out. James B. Sicking, 90 years old. And speaking of good innings, of course, the great Bob Newhart left us just just
Yeah.
day before yesterday.
Yeah.
I would be shocked. I would be shocked if someone here didn't have memories of watching the Bob Newhart show, maybe listening to his comedy albums. Newhart, of course, in the 80s.
The new Newhart show.
The new Newhart show, yes, which had such an amazing ending. I will not spoil the ending for you, but you should absolutely, even if you just Google up the ending on YouTube, check out the ending of the new Newhart show.
Yeah, he was the only one who was ever brave enough to use an ending that everyone says you absolutely should not.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But it worked. It worked because the new Newhart show was on for quite a while. It wasn't like a little flash in the pan kind of thing. It wasn't an episode. It wasn't a season. It was on for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just, such a zinger of an ending. And one of my earliest memories of Bob Newhart, actually, when I was a kid, I would stop the world. I'd stop playing with G.I. Joes or Star Wars figures or reading comic books or science fiction books. If there was a World War II picture on, I would watch it. And I remember watching a really grim movie called Hell is for Heroes. And it actually has Bob Newhart in a supporting role in it. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Bob Newhart's stand-up, he had a bit that was almost unique to him. I've never seen anyone pull it off, called the telephone gag, where he would act like he was on the receiving end of a telephone call, and he would say absurd things that would leave you guessing at what the person on the other end of the call might have been asking him. And he could do it for anything. Like he did a telephone gag about he's Arthur Doubleday talking to game manufacturers, trying to sell them on the idea of baseball. He did one where he was the commander of a submarine, the USS Leakey, calling Naval Command and talking to them about the problems on board the USS Leakey. But that was an extremely popular gag, and he did it in Hell is for Heroes. The Germans, the unit in question had moved in and occupied a series of German bunkers on the Siegfried Line, which was the last German defense before you entered Germany during World War II. And they ran the Germans out and they took over their bunkers. And then they very quickly find out that they're completely surrounded by the Germans. Everyone else has fallen back. And so they're trying to fool the Germans. So he goes into a bunker where he knows they've left a listening device. And he's got a field telephone. And he starts talking on the telephone, making sure he can be overheard by the listening device. And he's just saying just the most ridiculous things to make the Germans think they have more troops. And he's like, no, sir. I don't. We've already got 10 men in every foxhole. Well, I don't know, sir. Maybe you can send them into the parachuting into Berlin job next week, sir. It is a bright spot of comedy in an utterly bleak movie. And I definitely recommend you should check that out. So of course, Bob Newhart, one of the greats, one of the absolute greats. And let's see, next. Now this one, again, like James Seeking, I will not be surprised if not too many know this gentleman. This is Evan Wright. Have either one of you guys seen Generation Kill, the HBO miniseries?
I've never had HBO.
Okay. Evan Wright was a writer, a reporter. At the time in 2003, he was working for Rolling Stone magazine. Evan was embedded with the First Marines, or First Marine Recon, I should say, and went into Iraq on the tip of the spear, and rode in a Humvee with three or four other Marines. And if you ever want a peek into the utter insanity of war, of modern warfare, any warfare really, I would put Generation Kill right up there with any number of first person accounts of war. It is absurdly funny in a way that only you can only experience through the eyes of soldiers. And I shan't dwell too much on Mr. Wright's passing. He was a deeply troubled person at the end. He was working on another book, and his passing came as a great surprise to me. But it is an absolutely astounding book, and I recommend you check it out. If not the book itself, then the mini series proper. And let's see. Let me do this because I need to. We need to go back to the beginning of the list. Unfortunately, the way that Windows parses things, it can be a little weird. This guy,
yeah,
Richard Simmons. I'm gonna say this about Richard Simmons. He helped millions of people, myself included. I'm not kidding. I go ahead, Padre.
No, I mean, I remember his workout, show from when I was a kid, but then his stuff on Letterman was genius.
Yeah,
it was so funny. He did that whole wounded dignity thing perfectly. It was hilarious.
The skits he used to get up with Dave Letterman were just comedic genius. I did Deal a Meal for like 3 years in the 90s, and I got fitter than I ever had. No. I had one of the little things, the little daily meal planner, and you close the little shuttered doors. Mm-hmm. And I ran 3 nights a week. I went on a 3-mile run, and with that and this guy, it was fantastic. I learned so much about nutrition. So I really liked him, and I thought he was a sweet, genuine, sincere person. Yang, any thoughts?
Yeah. Well, my first thought is, if anyone's a fan of the show, Whose Line Is It Anyways? Check out the Richard Simmons skit on there. This is back when Drew Carrier was the host, I think in the mid or late 90s. It is one of the absolute most hilarious 2 minutes of TV you'll see.
I'm going to have to look that up after the show. And the last one, I promise this state funeral, this cavalcade of tragedy, this is the last entry we've got, at least for today. Dr. Ruth Westenheimer. Pop culture. Let's just say, for the sake of the algorithm, health guru. And go on with that. We'll just let that be. She was 97, I think.
I have to say, I'm always a little suspicious when, shall we say, an intimacy educator is really into their job. Is there something more going on?
Paging Dr. Freud.
Yeah. But she had she had a rough start at life, and Kabuki is like she almost lost her feet in a mortar attack. Yeah, she was not always the kindly little healthcare expert that we know and love.
But I think though that enthusiasm was part of the shtick. She knew she was a slightly goofy looking little lady, and that it would be. Mm-hmm. That there would be a humor aspect. There would be a draw to it because of about the disconnect between, people's thoughts about sex, and sorry for your algorithm, and then and then her on TV, because it was sort of like sitting down with your weird old aunt to talk about sex, like, but in that way it cut through a lot of hang-ups about it. I mean, can you imagine if Dr. Ruth looked like, with some bombshell, right? It would be uncomfortable.
So it would have the it would have the exact opposite effect of what she was going for, which was for,
Yeah.
for people who loved each other to spend that intimate time with each other and not worry about external factors when you'd be thinking about her.
Yeah.
So that and the shocking thing about all this is, with the exception of James Seeking and Shannon Doherty, with the exception of James Seeking and Donald Sutherland, all of these were last week.
Oh, yeah.
All of these have literally been in the last 8 or 9 days that we've lost these wonderful people.
So just about Donald Sutherland, I knew his niece.
No way. Really?
I briefly lived with her when I was in college in upstate New York, and her last name is Sutherland, and we always used to joke, like, "Oh, so he's your uncle, huh? Does your cousin Kiefer ever come by with his sports car?" Stuff like that. And at first she was like, "Ha ha ha," and then one time she's like, "Yeah, he really is my uncle." And we're like, "No, come on." And she had a picture where he came to a family gathering when she was much younger. And just so everyone knows, she always said Donald was really cool. And even though he was, uber rich and famous, he was still very down to earth.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Michael's got a question. Did she act as well?
She acted goofy. If that helps, but no, she was into medical illustration.
Huh.
So she hung out with cadavers.
Well, everybody needs somebody.
It's the life of the party there.
He'll never leave her.
Oh my gosh. All right, so what's Yang? You have you heard any scuttlebutt on the gaming or geek front? What's happening? What's going on?
On the gaming or geek front, well, I don't know. It's been kind of a weird week. It seems like we had a few things to talk about, but I'm suddenly drawing a blank.
Okay. Well, we can come back to you. Dungeon Minister, how about you? You were talking about Claricon.
Yeah.
Now I know you've mentioned this before, but how many did you have last year at Claricon?
We had around 50. Now, some of those were people who bought passes just as they had no intention of coming. They lived way too far away and weren't able to travel. And they bought passes simply to support the con. So we had 50 registrations, and that also included like the vendors who were there, so counting the people who were part of it. But this year we're already over 40, and
wow,
we're a ways still out. I mean, last year the registration didn't even open until around this time or later, and we got those kind of numbers. So yeah, it's going to be big, and I've added a fifth table, and one of the problems we had, not problem, but one of the things that was noted last year is the room is a little echoey. It's a concrete floor and drywall, and so I'm there's a place. It's a Canadian store. I don't think it's in the States. Giant Tiger, which is a great name for a store, but I love it. It's kind of a Kmart. It's like if Kmart went a little further down market, but they are buying curtains, drapes from there that I'm just going to line the walls with and try to make them look sort of medieval banner like, and have sections, the green table, the red table, the gray table,
nice.
But that'll hopefully dull the sound bounce a little bit, so a fifth table in the room isn't going to drive everyone up the pole. If it does, if the first day we put it up and it's just too much, we'll move the fifth table over to a second space. It's a little less convenient to get to, so I don't necessarily want to jump to that, but if we have to, we will. But yeah, so it's a lot of people. We got some cool people coming as as vendors, the Paint Minis Live, who I met through your channel, is going to be there.
Swell dude. Love Paint Minis Live. Bill
He's a
T
great
over
guy. There. And BS Games, they were there last year. They've just got a new game out, Sonoda. It's a strategy game. It uses D4s, and which way you've turned the D4, the number on that's up or down if you're old school like me, and the numbers go around the base. But anyway, the number that is displaying corresponds. It's the rules are not terribly difficult. I think they say you can learn it in 10 minutes. And you can. My boys all tried it out. I know Bob Johnny played it for quite some time. So it's a neat game. So they're going to be there with that. And so it's going to be fun. There's some other my brother-in-law, I think he's going to be there. He's got a line of stuff he's coming up with. I don't quite know what it is, but I'm saying, well, the brother-in-law is going to pass, so he's going to be there selling stuff. So it's going to be interesting.
Excellent.
Nice.
2 questions. Will Bob Johnny, will his game debut?
Yes. Yes. He's made his own game based on a set of wooden shapes that we had because we homeschooled the boys. So they were for learning geometry and math and all sorts of stuff. Terribly useful. And now they serve as the pieces for a game he has based on hexes and these different shapes that make up it's a whole thing. And he's going to do that and debut that on the first night. So
excellent. That sounds wonderful. The other question is, do you need someone to come up with questions for a trivia game for this?
Yes, that would be lovely. I was going to wait to ask you because last time I asked you and I thought it'd be like 2 weeks, and I think the next day you sent me 50 questions or 25 questions or something. So, but yes, if you could make them slightly easier this year, because last year some truly well versed grognards were like, because they were very I know I asked the Dungeon Delver, so they were very Greyhawk, and so people who were soaked in the game but just didn't do Greyhawk.
Okay,
like, I've got no idea, but they were hard questions. People were like scratching their head, but the trivia
of Doom. Well, I'll look into it, and of course, let's see, it's in October, so we've got August and September's Nerd Council of Dooms, and possibly even one before the con, because I know you're going to want to take an hour to an hour and a half chunk out of your precious time to be on the show. But we'll ask you some more details as things go on.
Nerd Council of Doom from the floor of con.
Oh, there we go. I like it already. Somebody make a note of that. Yang, did it come back? Go ahead.
Before we go, I just wanted Jay Tyler asked a question earlier. Did I get the keep build done? Not quite yet. I had to abandon the idea of styrofoam walls clad in foam core. They just weren't looking very good. So I've gone to 2-inch construction foam, which I finally found, 2-inch insulation foam. And I have to say, thank heavens for patrons, because that is expensive stuff. But I've got that cut up, and I've got a plan for drawing in the lines that I've got to put into effect. So it's still in progress.
Great.
Nice.
Excellent. So did the solar power recharge your brain battery? Do you remember what it was? Yeah,
it did. Yes. Luckily I have the wind backup. But of course, let's talk about some Wizards of the Coast news.
Yeah.
And there has finally been a replacement for Cynthia Williams, a man named John Haidt, whose claim to fame was being the senior VP and general manager of the Warcraft franchise, the Warcraft franchise for Blizzard. So we certainly know World of Warcraft is still the gold star of gaming. Nothing can go wrong here at Hasbro.
Oh, well. I see Fleetwood is trying to hide from the camera, but failing.
Hello, back on Fleetwood.
It's not as small as it used to be.
This goes back to my previous theory that they're really trying to make D&D all digital. which I think to some extent that wouldn't be bad. Even since the 80s, there have been a lot of fantastic D&D video games, and Baldur's Gate 3 was a lot of fun for anybody who had a chance to play that. But the problem is you still need that core game with which to build all these other, tentacle franchisey things out. You can't really have good video games if you don't have that core system that people want to develop lore for. And I don't see that happening.
Yeah. And, I talked to Tim Imholt about this, and I talked a little bit to Stephen Ratty McFarland on Thursday night about this. D&D it's a money maker for Wizards of the Coast. It by and far is not the biggest money maker for Wizards of the Coast. It's not even second. It's not even third. It's dead last. It made $130 million last year. Their biggest money maker is it's Magic. Magic is a zero investment game. You can finish a game of Magic in 20 minutes. There's no deep lore you have to know. It's a card game. Everybody does card games. I mean, some of the first things you hand kids when they're little, they're thick and cardboardy, but flashcards, A, apple, B, bear, and so on. So there's no question that card games resonate with people a lot more than let's be pretend elves on graph paper. Yeah. So, as far as that goes, D&D is in their list a relatively minor player, and they play numbers games. There's Proudfoot says Magic is quite the investment in money. It is for the hardcore players. It absolutely is. But for the table gamer, oh, what is this? Oh, it's Magic the Gathering. Oh, I'll buy a few What does a pack of Magic the Gathering go for? Father, do you know what a Magic the Gathering pack sells for?
Even if I did, it would be in Canadian dollars, so it would sound outrageous.
Oh, $2,000. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, that's like $10 American. Okay.
Yeah, 7 beaver pelts. 7 beaver pelts.
7 beaver pelts. 4 jars of maple syrup, I think, is the exchange. Yang, any idea
of the cost of Magic?
A Magic pack.
I really enjoyed playing it in the 90s, but I don't like the way they make the game now. They sort of make it. It used to be, here's a bunch of cards, figure out what to do with them. Whereas now it's like, you need to use this card with that card. And these 3 cards. Yeah. I don't like that. So I don't know. I haven't played in quite a long time.
It's maybe $12 for a pack, which I guess is enough to do a deck. I don't know. I know
that's for the starter pack.
Yeah.
Lord Caron, is that just for the starter pack, or is that just for like an extra pack of cards?
Yeah, Mark Morrison says $5 a pack. The point is, regardless of what we're looking at for the cost, is it's a cheap investment. You're in and out. You can do what Kabuki calls pauper magic, where you just play with common cards and cheapy decks. You don't dig through, like, I'm going to save up my money that I was going to spend on getting a new roof put on my house and buy a Black Lotus card, singular. But you sit down and you play with whatever and you enjoy. But the point of it is not the cost, it's the relative ease of entry versus a role-playing game where it's like, learn this matrix of rules. Now think of an entire story inside your head for a character. Or if you want a DM, spend the time to think of an entire world. That's a different entry point. And that's where we come to D&D is not the most money-making thing because it's not the easiest level of entry. And I think John Haidt coming over, he's going to want to bring that World of Warcraftness to D&D more so than it has been. So we'll see what happens there. I'll throw a link up if you guys want to read this. I think this is the one you were using, from Retail Dive, was it, Yang?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll paste that up real quick. And of course, I got to cut that off because otherwise,
Yeah,
too much stuff.
It's real interesting to me too because throughout gaming history, there's always been the sandbox versus Rails debate, and it seems to me that Wizards of the Coast is going to make a huge shift over to the Rails side because they're not going to want you to develop your own entertainment. They're going to want you to buy theirs, which they'll have control of online.
I honestly, I think for a large number of gamers, I think I could definitely see that. I could absolutely see that. And unfortunately, like myself, Yang, Dungeon Minister, and even our audience, we're the outliers, right? We'll color outside the line any day of the week. We'll take a blank sheet of paper instead of the coloring book route and do our own stuff. And it always has been. But I think they're wanting to, they're wanting to broaden the appeal by giving people just an easy set of rails to get on and roll. I'm not gonna get my old man pants on and complain about these shiny new games, but I definitely think Mr. Height's appointment is probably part of that on the rails, as Yang is saying.
And I think the big question here is how many of us had a World of Warcraft addiction back in the day?
I never did. My wife and I only played EverQuest when it first came out, and that was for like a couple of months, and then we were like, this much for this, nah. So I did not. Did you do World of Warcraft at all, Dungeon Minister?
No. The only thing that I think at Warcraft, I had a PlayStation, and I had a disc, and I think it was Warcraft. And you'd create like a little factory or a little troop, little barracks or something, and troops would be created, and they would come out, and the orcs would say, "Here I am, boss." Okay, boss. When you tell them to go do something, but that wasn't like on the table. That was it was a video game, and it was very, very early stuff. I mean, it wasn't anywhere near what they do now. And you didn't play a character; you just commanded troops. It was a resource. It was just a resource game, and once you knew who the enemy was and what resources you needed to counter them, you could fly through the game, instantly, because it was just about just an algorithm. It was just a set of math, right? Really.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun.
I think once the once the folks at Blizzard Activision turned away from the real-time strategy game of Warcraft, it just basically died on the vine. But I remember clicking on, I played the original Warcraft on my high-end 486 back in the day, and clicking on individual units as they would come out, my lord. Yes.
That's the one.
Stop touching me. Why do you keep touching me? What do you want? And then the orcs would likewise, stop poking me. Stop touching me. Go do something else. Ah. Yes. Warcraft, the RTS was a lot of fun. But I never did. Yang, how about you? You seemed near confession there.
Yeah. Well, I was living in China, and I just really wanted to hear some English, so I got into Wrath of the Lich King when that expansion came out, and I played for a while until it got to the point where I kept feeling like, okay, I have to run home from classes, and I have to do my dailies to get gold to do something or another, and then one day it just dawned on me, like, if I use this time to work a real job, I can make actual money. And then I never had that much of a desire to play again.
Yeah. I kind of stopped. Similarly, I remember I had put like 2,600 hours into Skyrim since 2011, and it was coming up in like 2017, 2018. And it occurred to me, I had worked the equivalent of 1 year at a full-time job playing that game. And they released the expansion where you could build a house and clear the land. And I was so happy. And so I'm doing that. And I'm like, wait a minute, hang on a second. I am ignoring clearing the land and keeping up my settlement in real life to do it on a computer. Now, granted, I can't go outside and yell fuss row da at the weeds and just knock them all down. But yeah, I had the same apotheosis, Yang. Different game, same apotheosis. If I got off my ass and did things, my actual steading would be a lot better for it. And so
yeah, you need to get some sort of reward system is all there is to it. Like you need it to, when you mow the lawn, there to be a ring sound that plays.
Yeah, exactly. And I now pay a lawn guy, so but anyhow, so yeah, this guy coming in.
The question is, when the lawn guy comes, do you go out and touch him? Stop touching me.
The van spawned a single worker. No, I like my lawn guy a lot. We get along. That would probably weird him out, and I'd have to find another more expensive guy. But lowland steading of the bell giant. That's me. But farming coin. Oh, but farming coin in real life is harder. Yes, or it is. So anyway, yeah, the Wizards of the Coast president is from Blizzard Activision, and this is gonna mean something probably not good for our hobby. I actually found something kind of interesting, and at first I was like, it's like the meme. At first I was like, ananas with this. So, you guys, we all love the classic D&D here, of course, and audience too. And I saw this pop up the other day. I couldn't find the original story on ICV2, which is a gaming industry website, but I found the company that was selling these. And when I saw the headline on the ICV2 website, I was all happy about this, because what it is they are, I'm a little less unhappy than I was when I saw the price. These are classic module dice collections. They're small boxes that look like classic D&D modules, but they come with a pack-in set of dice. Now you would think, okay, so a set of dice with inflation these days, that's probably 10, 12, 15 bucks. $45. But you get some interesting stuff with this. So I was looking at this, and I went from absolutely not, no way in hell. But I looked at the stuff you get, and you can see there that looks like that looks like it covered a White Plume Mountain. That is kind of cool looking. This Beetle and Grimm is the company. Classic module dice collection. This is White Plume Mountain. But what you get, this is a pre-order page. I will share this link. This is not an affiliate link, guys. Oh, good Lord. Let's see if I can. Hopefully this link will work. If not, you guys can Google this. Knickknack95 is already registered. Ha 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 ha. Nope. But anyway, but what you get with this is each classic module dice collection includes felt-lined book-style collector's box 4x6x6 by 1 3/4. I don't know what that is in communist measurements that they use in America's Hat Dungeon Minister, so don't ask. Standard set of 7 resin dice, oversized D20 to complement each adventure, 2-inch collectible metal coin commemorating the adventure and the 50th anniversary of D&D, and 4 collectible cards with artwork and information about each adventure and its legacy. And we have many others, as you can see here. We have Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. We have, let's see, Ravenloft. Temple of Elemental Evil. And this one over here, which is, this module's not even on my radar, but I guess second edition is considered classic now. I still consider 2E AD&D as new D&D, so that should tell you guys where I am. But this is Vecna Lives. You know they had to have something Vecna related in there because that's, you know, Stranger Things and whatnot. So that's the initial run of dice, and these, through this website, through their pre-orders, these are 38 apiece. With the extra tchotchkes, it's not that bad. But what do you guys think?
They're first of all, they're 54 Canadian, down from 63. So that gives you an example of the exchange rate. And there's no picture of the dice.
Yeah.
There's no picture of the cards.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't pre-order. I won't. First of all, I'm not paying $38.25, let alone 54 for dice.
Unless they're like real gems or something.
Well, I'm not paying that much for dice unless Gary Gygax is holding them and bringing them to my house, and we'll roll them every time I have a game. But especially if I'm not seeing them, like maybe when they roll the thing out and there's pictures, there might be a bit more temptation there. But right now, all I'm looking at is a picture of the cover of a module, which, you know, we've all already seen.
Well, okay, so the question for me is, I know that what's their name, Beatles and Grimm, they license stuff from Wizards of the Coast. So my question is, why isn't there a print of the original game module in there?
Yeah.
I mean, if you had the game module and the other tchotchkes with it, $38 doesn't sound so bad. But, like, I don't know, a box to hold the book if maybe one day I found the original game supplement.
But I imagine this box is like little. What was it again?
Yeah, it's like 5x7.
Yeah.
Let me see if I've got something here. I've got here. This is actually a similarly priced dice set from Etsy that is it's kind of not authorized. You guys can't even see that. Let me take this down real quick. But this is from Etsy. It looks like the Holmes Basic box. That's about the size box I think these are going to be.
Right.
But this came with maps and dice you could color and character sheets and everything. It's called the Holmage, Holmage, dice from Zuccotti. I don't know if there's any more of these left. I think it says this was 1,000 limited set, but I think that is going to be about the type you get, except it's book-like and felt and not a slipcase box. But you're absolutely right, Dungeon Minister. Why not put a miniaturized version of the module and have have a full-sized map? 5x7, you could just unfold the map and have a little poster map ready to go, ready to play right there. I don't see why they wouldn't take that tech. And they may have even asked, and Wizards of the Coast just said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to, we're not going to let you guys get into the reprint business like that.
Yeah, I'm not a dice goblin. I don't like hoard dice. So maybe people who are really into dice, they would, right? So I'm not the best. I'm not the target audience, clearly.
Well, there is that old saying: "A gamer and his money are soon parted."
Gamer, fool, whichever.
But it is a shame because if Wizards doesn't want to put out these products, things that Gronards would really love, like new versions of old modules and stuff. Why not let a third party do it and you get a percentage for no work? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. No,
Elven Maid says that she has goblin dice. Do you mean that you're eating them? Or that...
I hope not. And if they are, then I have a D20 ice mold. Maybe she's put some fruit juice in one of those. That could be tasty.
You could cut up melon. You could cut up like honeydew melon and
there you go. Nice D4 pyramid of some tasty watermelon. But yeah, I kind of feel like if I got them as a gift, that would be like super peachy keen. But $38, that's like 3 liters of miniature printing resin. That's $38 is a couple of classic D&D modules or a single hardback AD&D book. It is $38 is 4 copies of the Elven Inn that Emmy has printed out. So yeah, I'll have to see these things on discount at my FLGS before I bite on these.
Yeah, $54 up here. You could get like a loaf of bread. So I mean, it's
nice. If the Justin Trudeau government bread store allows you to purchase,
it's not my month for bread.
It's not your month for bread, comrade. So what about summer movies, guys? I gotta admit, even with human malware having rolled through, this is like the first summer in years. I'm just looking at the scheduled lineup going, I haven't heard of a single thing that grabbed my interest. I've been seeing, because they've been pushing it like crazy, the Twister movie, the YouTube ads have been pushing the Twister movie, but I'm like, yeah, fine. And it even has what's her name in it? My girlfriend. Something you need to talk to us about, Dungeon Minister.
But I'm like, yeah.
What? Yeah. Let me. You know what? Here we can. Let's see. We have the internet. We need not. Go ahead, Yang.
I was going to say it's funny you say that because I don't know, the lineup this year seems more reliable than last year's.
Well, last year no one else, because it wasn't. I don't know.
There was Barbie and Oppenheimer, and that was about it. But so this year you got Twister 2, which I've actually heard is a halfway decent movie. It's a fun popcorn movie. You've got Wolverine, Deadpool coming up later.
We're seeing that next weekend. Guys, there are plot spoilers on the screen. Maybe don't look at that Wikipedia page I just pulled up. Sorry.
Supposedly the most recent Bad Boys was good too. I haven't seen it yet, but
do you think that's the start of the great Will Smith fixing?
I don't know if anything could fix Will Smith.
Yeah. They're actually talking about a sequel to I Am Legend that takes the director's cut alternate ending. That is not the one where he blows himself up with a hand grenade, but the one where he realizes that the infected do in fact still possess a rudimentary conscious, emotions, loves, hates, fears, and that sort of thing. And he is the actual horrific monster. And goes with it, not the I'll blow myself up and all the zombies with a hand grenade. So that's apparently in pre-production. But yeah, we're going to see Wolverine Deadpool next weekend. I'm going to need like advanced forgiveness for that one, Dungeon Minister, because I have a feeling that is going to be a rough ride. I mean, but The other thing, which I just spoiled by putting up on the screen, were either one of you guys fans of the Halo TV series or even the video games?
Not really.
No.
Yeah, so I played the first video game. Now, I had already played Half-Life and I think maybe even Deus Ex at this point, although I could be wrong about Deus Ex. I knew what a good story told through a first-person shooter could be. And yet console fanboys or console peasants went bananas with Halo because they're like, oh my gosh, the story is so amazing, as you can't even believe it. And there's Cortana, and then he finds his commander who's been. And I'm like, guys, there's a decade of first-person shooters, and many of them have stories that are just as good as Halo's. But you just bought an Xbox and just discovered video games as storytelling mediums. Trust me, this is not that special. But no, people went all in for Halo. So we finally, quote unquote, got a Halo TV series, and it was roundly hated. It just micturated all over the lore, as it were. And so it lasted 2 whole seasons. Halo canceled at Paramount Plus after 2 seasons. The show's producers will look for a new home for the adaptation of video games. They won't get it. That's never how that works out. Oh, we're shopping it around to other networks. Other networks won't want it. It's toxic. So it says the streamers canceled its video game adaptation Halo after 2 seasons. If only we could be so lucky with The Acolyte. The series, based on the Xbox franchise and starring Pablo Schreiber as Master Chief John 117, finished its 2nd season in March. We're extremely proud of the ambitious series and would like to thank our partners at Xbox, 343 Industries, and Amblin Television, along with showrunner and executive producer David Weiner. His fellow executive producers, the entire cast led by Pablo Schreiber as Master Chief, and the amazing crew for all their outstanding work. Paramount Plus said in a statement, "We wish everyone the best going forward." So if you're a fan of this, you're not getting a second sequel, is basically what that's saying.
Yeah.
That is the TV equivalent of Dad's just going out for a loaf of bread and a carton of eggs. I'll be right back. But
I've been watching old shows on Netflix. So
what have you been taking in?
Well, 2 anime series. One is called Hajime no Ippo, which is the story. It's a Japanese anime set in the 1980s. I think the original show came out about 20 years ago, and it's a show about a kid who's getting beat up at school. He's getting teased and stuff. And one day, a guy from a boxing gym saves him from getting beaten up. So he's like, oh, I want to go too. And it's about his quest to become a champion boxer. And it's great. It's funny because it's rated TVMA, but there's absolutely nothing that any of us would consider bad. It's just there's a few jokes about the main character being really well hung after a shower scene.
Okay.
Alvin made, that's exactly what I was thinking. Aside from what Yang just said, that sounds like Karate Kid.
Yeah. Could have been
It's a lot
based
of
on that.
Karate Kid.
There's a curmudgeonly old American who teaches him the value of hard work.
Yeah.
No,
And
it's,
Concentrate,
wash his
Daniel
car.
San.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes him wash his car, makes him paint his fence. It's the whole thing.
Yeah. Wax
and then-
on, wax off.
Then there's another great series which originally aired in the States in about 2001. It's called Ghost Stories. So 2001, if people don't remember, anime was not so big. So I'm not sure exactly who got the rights to it, but they got the rights, and during the dubbing, they just let the actors cut loose. So there's it's just complete jokes for the thin gruel that the plot normally is. And it's kind of funny because some of it's dated. Like there's a teenage girl, and she's looking in her compact mirror. Mirror, mirror, who's the fairest of all? And one of the kids walking by goes, Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah, that didn't age well.
That didn't. But there's a lot of really funny stuff in there. If you like irreverent humor, that would probably be blacklisted in 2024. Highly recommend Ghost Stories. It's on Amazon Prime right now.
I'll check it out. I'll have to give it a look.
Even my wife thought it was funny.
Well, hey, there you go. The wife seal of approval, man. Mm-hmm. What's any I know how busy you are. The boys, the everything Dungeon Minister, but is there anything you've caught lately, even if it's old stuff, anything that you've enjoyed that you had 90 minutes, an hour, half an hour to just sit down and drink in?
Oh, I have to be perfectly honest. The last couple of weeks, I've just been, once the boys are in bed, I'm plugging into various YouTube channels that cover American politics and just eating popcorn and watching like in mute horror and fascination. So no, not a lot actually.
Well, I guess if you like, if you just kind of in your mind's eye, I think we're going to get to a point in the next 20 years where you can do like an AI overlay and just tell it to put certain things on the screen. So you can watch an American political debate and say, make it look like Denethor and Sauron.
You mean like more like that?
More like them, yeah. You'll have you'll have like a fantasy TV show, whether you want it or not. But right now it is fairly Games of Thrones-esque down here. Yes,
I have to say I did finally watch. I've been wanting to watch this for a while. I did finally watch The Death of Stalin, which is just it's not nerdy at all, but it's a brilliant movie.
Death of Stalin, yeah,
just hilarious and dark and disturbing and cautionary and brilliantly acted. It's really good. Jason Isaacs got the right name? I'm not good.
Jason Isaacs owns that movie.
Just pitch perfect, hilarious, over the top, beautiful. Yeah. And I mean Buscemi, obviously, an excellent performance as well. All of them, really.
Did you know that movie's illegal in Russia?
Do you know I'm not surprised?
Yeah, they consider it a corruption and insult to Russian history to portray these people this way. Yeah. And guys, if you haven't seen The Death of Stalin, you are missing probably one of the best comedies of the last 20 years. Think of the funniest political or history themed Monty Python sketch you can think of. Just imagine that in your head. And then full color 4K blown out for it feels like it's 2 hours long. I think it barely clocks in at 100 minutes.
Yeah, it's not. It's a quick movie.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, Nick Nack there said, I know it was Marcus Aulicus who said that it's, Jason Isaacs' character was not accurate to life. No, none of them were. None of them were from that movie, but it was the things they did are real. The actions they took, and even some of the things they say, but it's just a beautifully chaotic, irreverent, utterly over the top take on the events, right? Again, the events are real, but the communication of them and the characterizations are just fabulous.
Yeah, and Iannucci does a great job with direction in that film, because there's a couple of points in there, and I think have you seen it, Yang?
Have not seen it.
Please watch it this weekend. It is a riot, but there are a couple of points where Iannucci, like, you're just kind of floating along, enjoying the ridiculous humor, and he will grab you by the ankle and yank you right into a very dark place. And you're like, oh, no, shoot, that actually happened historically, more or less like that, and that's not funny at all.
Yeah.
You know? And then you're back to laughing at, you know, the almost Keystone Cops-esque dancing around. But yeah, Death of Stalin is a great expenditure of time. I think Jorge probably nailed it here. It's one of those situations where you add a little sarcasm to real life and you get a comedy. 100%, Jorge. 100%. So, good on you.
I was going to say, go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
There's one more show I would recommend. It's currently wrapping up its 4th and last season. Is a show called Evil. And it is a show about possession and demonic infestation. It follows 3 people. So there's one guy who's in training to become a Catholic priest, and a psychologist, and then another guy who does scientific evaluations for them, and they are part of the Catholic assessors. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Catholic Church, at least ostensibly, does not go out and do random exorcisms. They don't declare random things miracles or prophecies. Like if somebody says something, it's a prophecy. They do investigation and they send out assessors. So if somebody has a claim of being possessed, is there mental illness? Is there some sort of a physiological reason, like they've got black mold that's altering their mind or something? And the show is great overall because it's got a lot of is it, isn't it? You know, a lot of shows screw that up where they come down heavy on one side, like, yes, there's demonic possession, or no, it's all made up. This, like, you really have to think where you fall in on a lot of these cases. But the other thing I like is a lot of these horror shows, it'll be like, okay, this week there's a vampire, and then we meet a Frankenstein and a mer creature. But they really kind of modernize things. They just had one about chatbots that they're wondering if it's possessed, because in a few cases the chatbots will start cursing people out in Latin and Aramaic, and the whole premise was, it's when you have a loved one who dies, you give them access to the emails and any voice recordings, and then they make this bot so they can contact you and call you, and supposedly it's supposed to be comforting. So there's a question of, is it really immoral to or dangerous for your own soul in order to, like, you want that comfort, but is that wrong? Because you're supposed to, when they're gone, they're supposed to be gone. So there's things like that. And then they also take the very Catholic view of possession, which is not that all of a sudden, like, some demon comes into your house and they're like, "You're mine, Dungeon Delver," and goes into your body and, like, makes you go around kicking dogs or something. It's like, it's a very progressive thing that starts very small, like maybe you steal a candy bar or you start lying, and then you progressively do more things that makes you more attractive to evil. So it's there are a few woke episodes, but even the woke episodes are not that bad. It's not crazy bad, and in general, those things actually fit with the storyline. So if you're interested in those kind of shows and you want them from a different point of view than, most of the possession demon stories that you see coming out of Hollywood, highly recommend Evil. Seasons 1 and 2 are up on Netflix now, and they're finishing up 4, which I think is on Paramount.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds kind of interesting. I was glancing over at the page for it here. You got something for us, Dungeon Minister? I see a screen there.
Yeah. I remembered something. I was actually watching Squirrel Hermit, and he was playing an online He's playing an online game, Iron Helm, and I'm trying to find it here on this site. I'm not finding it, but there's lots of other stuff. Actually, there's a search here somewhere, but it's a solo game, and it's a solo sort of adventure, fantasy adventure game. But this company is from Grey Gnome, but they do their things through a site called PNP Arcade, and it's all you could buy a physical copy of this thing somewhere else, I believe, but on here you can get printable versions of it. But they have all sorts of these printable games. I printed some up of Doom Realm, which is, this feels like the 80s to me. These things, and they all have their own sort of rule sets, and they come with these sheets that you play, and you just print them up. But I got them the thought that we're gonna go camping and we're gonna have time in the car, and there it is. Well done, you. And and Touchberry is pointing at hideous abominations on the screen and wanting to look at that one.
Hideous abominations, you say?
Yeah. So this is probably the digital version of the game, and then you print it up yourself, color printer on some cardstock or something. They have a physical version with a nice card box and all that kind of stuff, which is considerably more than $5. But I was watching Squirrel Hermit play it, and it looked like it was a pretty cool game. And it was all about, what card you pick, what dice roll you make, etc. So there was a randomness, so you could play it over and over, and it would be different, as you played through it. So it looked pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. So check that out, guys. That's a PNP Arcade, and I saw a lot of different games out there on the PNP Arcade website.
Oh, there's gobs of them.
This is brand new to me. I wish you hadn't saved this to the end. Not the end, but I wish we'd gotten into this earlier, I should say.
Cool.
But this looks really cool. This is from Grey Gnome Games. And again, this is not an endorsed thing. They've got a few here. Desolate Dark Matters, a game there called Desolate, Doom Realm, a perilous roll and write adventure. Dust Runner, we got kind of a cyberpunky looking thing there. Iron Helm that we were just talking about, and we've got Iron Chest, the Howling Abyss Dungeon Deck, Iron Helm Dice Tower, which looks like a arcade game, which I may have to get that. Adventure Pack, Iron Helm Fanny Pack. I don't even want to. This looks really cool, and these are all.
These would probably be PDFs. Like with this, when I got Doom Realm, it's just a PDF, and
mm-hmm.
You could print off, a zip file, and you could print off whatever color or black and white, etc. I did print off one in color, and I can't find it now. The boys may have stolen it. But I printed it off for them because it's 2 hours in the car to get up to our campground. So anyway.
And you say that you can do this single player or multiple with like many people?
Well, the ones that I printed off are all one player, solo player, but they have other games. The PNP Arcade has from all different publishers, right? It's all different game creators, and they've got gobs of stuff for multiple players, for 2 players, 1 player, etc. It's kind of neat. You can explore it, and because it's a PDF, it's like $3, $5. I think the most expensive PDF I saw was $7. Like you're not spending that much on a game, and you could try it out. This, it was $2 for Doom World or Doom Realm. $2 is $2. No, it's not going to break any banks. So you could try it out, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, no big loss.
Well, it's certainly not $38 as an entry point. So, and I'm guessing it's what is there like a central core mechanic to it where it's like just 2d6 or a d20 or a d%?
Yeah, as I recall, the Iron Helm, the mechanic was it even a 1d6? It may have been, it was d6. It may have been 1 or 2, and that was the core mechanic. And then you combine that with cards you drew. So you draw an enemy card. You draw a card, it would either be an enemy or a trap or a treasure or something like that. then you'd roll the dice, and depending on what you rolled, that would affect the car. I can't remember exactly. This one is, I haven't even played it. I just put it on the table in the morning for the boys, and they came down for breakfast, and they've scribbled up a couple of them. So, but they look kind of cool.
Well, this looks really, really neat. I kind of like this. I definitely think there's room for a lightweight game, that's just pick up something you can do like this. And it used to be like you could go into a game store back in the day and there'd be a spinning rack of mini games.
And that's what this reminded me of. That's sort of like, and I say it feels like the 80s, this whole thing. There's if you're asking about mechanics, there's dice for movement and for random encounters and things like that. So it feels like the 80s, that sort of simple contained game, though this will entertain you for an hour or two.
Well, I like this. This looks very cool. Thank you for sharing this with us. I
almost forgot entirely about it, and then I saw the pile of stuff sitting there.
Speaking of which, do you guys sort of think we're in for an 80s revival?
I hope so. All my clothes will come back.
I think we're kind of there. And, I had this interesting discussion with Steven on Thursday about this. And I'm glad you touched on that, Yang. Otherwise, I might have forgotten. But I wanted to, I kind of wanted to mention this a little bit because Hasbro has largely moved away from toys. Toys are not Hasbro's big money maker anymore because nobody buys toys. Think about it. When we were kids in the 80s, 70s, 80s, an action figure, whether it was a 12-inch G.I. Joe or a 3-inch Star Wars figure, an action figure or multiple action figures, you had Greeblies, you had guns, you had ships. I've got Star Wars ships up there on my shelf. But an action figure was the thing, right? It was a tactile thing, whether it was Micronauts or Star Wars or what have you. And you played with them. You played with them for hours. You'd put them in their Jeep or their helicopter, ask mom to make a parachute out of a handkerchief and you throw it up in the air and have G.I. Joe parachute in or whatever, right? Nowadays, 11, 12-year-olds, they want to be on their phone, their tablet, or console. That's it. Action figures, play sets, toys, stuff like that, they're still selling those in smaller quantities to us.
Yes.
To people in their 50s. Who wants to buy a Transformer? Not Johnny. 12-year-old Johnny wants to walk across the Target and get a card for access to Minecraft or Mario, whatever.
Well, I will probably say my Bob Johnny has Transformers.
And that's, we're the outliers. But action figures, play sets, ships, all that stuff, that's us buying it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you're going to see a return to the 80s. We want comfort stuff to remind us of being a kid.
I don't know. It's interesting you mentioned this because I've been noticing sort of this trend in comics where if you look at comic books when they started in the 30s, they only cost a dime, which was, even in the Depression, it was affordable by a lot of kids.
Whoops.
And, kids, like, if the three of us were going, you'd buy one, I'd buy another, Dungeon Mister would buy a third, and then we'd swap. They were very cheap and disposable forms of entertainment. And what's happened is they keep getting more and more expensive. They want to get all these extra versions and stuff. So there's no longer that cheap entry point, which is what I think happened with a lot of these toys. Is, when we were kids, a G.I. Joe figure cost like $3 or something, which wasn't that bad for a kid back then. But I've noticed kids today will play with those old toys if they're around. I think it's more an issue of I was at either Target or Walmart, and I saw G.I. Joe action figures. They were like $25 a piece. How are kids going to be able to afford that? You know, especially since most of them don't work these days either. So I don't know. I agree. They're aiming them towards us, but I don't know if we're going to get a revival in that sense, because the cheap stuff which needs to be available for kids, I just don't see it coming back.
Well, and I think, again, I think that goes back to, the kids just don't play with this stuff.
But I think they would, because I've seen them play. I've seen them play with stuff from, at their grandparents' house, or, like, oh, these were your dad's kids when he was young, and that kind of stuff. I think they would. Now, the 12-year-old, I would agree, but 12-year-old was already kind of old for Transformers.
Yeah. Well, depends on the 12-year-old. I know. When, it was a few years back now, but for our middle guy, Hutchberry, for his birthday, I found him the Twin Pod Cloud Car, and that was the first Star Wars ship that I bought myself. Right? I mean, I was an only child, so I had a Millennium Falcon. I had the AT-AT because I was an only child.
Nice.
But in terms of ones that I could afford, because it didn't have any electronics, right? But it was a cool ship. Was it your first one that you bought too?
The first Star Wars vehicle I bought with my own money, it was $14.99. It was the AT-ST. I wanted the AT-AT when I was a kid. I got the Millennium Falcon. I have all of my Star Wars vehicles, and all but one of my Star Wars figures. My Sandman is missing. He may be in a box somewhere, but I haven't seen him in years. But I have my Scout Walker, and I bought this at TG&Y, and I still have him. He's dusty. There we go.
Yes.
That was the first one. That was the first one I bought, and I love this guy. You can, he's got
stomping,
walking action. I absolutely dig on this guy. And the last Star Wars ship I bought, and it's way out of shot, and it's actually got figures sitting on it and that sort of thing. So I'm not going to get it down. It's probably even dustier than that guy. Is I bought a Power of the Force A-Wing at Disney when we went to Disney one year. I bought an A-Wing, and what was interesting about it was it was only, I think I paid like $20.99. Granted, that was in the late 90s, but that's fairly affordable for that. And when I got home with it, of course, I was 29 or 30, so it went on a shelf just to look cool. But in just kind of fiddling with it and turning it over in my hands, I noticed it has all the places, it has all of the hardware in place to be a ship that makes zappy sounds and lights up, but none of that hardware is installed. Like, there's a battery door on it, but if you pop it open, it's just a hollow spot that leads into the interior of the module. So I think maybe Hasbro, or well, I don't know if they were Hasbro or if it was still Kenner in the late 90s, but I think they produced like a premium line that would actually do all the sounds and stuff. And then,
as far as I'm concerned, the premium line is the one that doesn't. Because you remember when the old, you had the Millennium Falcon, you had the X-Wing. You press the X-Wing, you press the little button on the back. Mm-hmm. First of all, you could push down on R2-D2 and open the wings. That was cool.
Yes.
But if you press the button, a red light at the nose cone lit up.
Yep.
And it meant, now you'd press it and there would be sound recorded from the movie kind of quality come out of the thing.
Yeah, the power of The Power of the Force Millennium Falcon had like fiber optics in it that made like the engine exhaust like slowly fade up to that hyperdrive blue, and it would make the sound, and you could pop the lid off and like press the Dejaric table and get like 5 pieces of dialogue from 3PO and R2 and Chewie, and move the guns and push a button in there and in the cockpit. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was a multimedia experience.
Yeah.
But
then you're not, the kid's not playing. The kid is just reenacting the movie. The great thing about when we don't have any of that, and the thing will just make an sound when you press it, you're playing whatever. And Luke Skywalker is off on a whole totally different mission that had nothing to do with the movies. Right?
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah, when you press the button, it doesn't say something from the film.
I have to share this story because I think it's really fun. A few years into me owning my X-Wing, R2 broke in some way. The wings would no longer stay locked up.
Well, he was shot. He was shot during the trench run.
Exactly. So when I was a kid, and after that happened, and I would move it around, I'd hear something rattling around, and I did not dare tell my folks about it. But I went and I got a screwdriver out of the utility closet, and I carefully opened it up. I took the top of it off, and I realized I need to put this back together right now. I am looking at something that is beyond my level of understanding. But I did see this little curved piece of plastic from R2 where he sat. There's a lip that runs around. So I took that out so it wouldn't rattle anymore, and I bolted it back together. A few years ago on YouTube, I found a video that explains how to fix that. And you can just take R2 off of his post, turn him around so the lip faces the latch again, and just put him back down and put it back together. And now the S-foils lock in attack position again. But what I could not figure out was why, even with fresh batteries, brand new rechargeable A's or D's, why none of my Star Wars vehicles make sounds anymore. And it was just one of those moments where, like, you clever bastards, you might think that buzzing sound in the X-Wing and the Falcon and the Snowspeeder and all that is a little piezo circuit that buzzes a speaker. It's a motor.
It's a physical thing.
It is an electric motor that plays like a kazoo reed stuck next to it on a gear. So what you have to do is drip sewing machine oil down in those motors, because over 50 years, the oil is gummed up and it won't let the motor turn freely. So that was the neatest video. And one of these days I'm going to cowboy up and go through all my Star Wars vehicles and redo the motors, and my wife will hate me for it because I will be back here for hours. Luke, they're coming in too fast. Eat. But anyway, so yeah, but back to answer the question. Yes, I think kids would, but no, they don't. So, I think kids would love to play original and basic and first edition advanced D&D, but they don't. And the reality is Hasbro doesn't push hard on buy your kids a bunch of plastic toys.
Yeah. Those are more expensive to make.
Yeah. And the people that they're selling them to now are us. Mm-hmm. $20 for a Star Wars figure or $14.99 for access to Minecraft. I know what most kids are actually going to pick.
Yeah, sure. And it's super cheap for them to, if they don't, there's no shipping on that. Just bandwidth.
Yeah.
So that's a lot cheaper product for them to produce. Once it's made, and then, endless copies can be sold.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about molds wearing out. You don't have to worry about, oh no, despite the fact that we tested this thing for 5,000 hours with chimps and infants and toddlers and grown-ups, somebody found a way to pry this thing's head off and choke on it. Yeah. Now we have to either remake it or stop making it or yada, yada, yada. I do want to answer this question. Doc Flamingo asks if anyone remembers the Starbird Avenger. Looked kind of like a Y-Wing.
Yep.
Had the engine sounds that changed based on the angle. You could shoot and deactivate one another. I remember it. I remember seeing the ads for it. And I don't think I ever asked the folks for it. So like I never got one, but I do remember them. I remember them very well.
Yeah, that was a cool toy.
Yes, it was.
I think I had one of them. So of course, the whole point of the interactiveness was lost. But
yeah. Stand in front of the mirror and hope that the IR beam will bounce back on you, I guess.
Yeah.
But what was your toy du jour when you were a kid, Yang? You're strangely silent.
Man, my toy du jour.
What was your, like, I want this. This is what I'm saving from the flood. When the killer bees come and you have to jump in the car and flee.
Probably either... Probably Transformers, I would say. That or laser tag, which I never really got to play.
I had laser tag, same.
Yeah, that year that it came out, like all my friends' parents were like, "Oh, well, nobody else is going to get it, so there's no point in only having one," and I was the only one.
I was in my mid-late teens when laser tag dropped, and I went out. Interesting gaming relation. TSR published a laser tag rulebook and scenario pack.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. But my fellow teenage buddies were like, man, this is going to kick ass. We can play laser tag in that wooded lot next to your apartment complex, Bill. We're totally going to get laser tag. I went out. I spent $25 on the damn goofy looking belt and gun. I almost bought the rifle. The rifle was like $65. I went through the checkout, paid for it, got to the front of the store and was like, wait a minute. I only have so much money. So I went right to the return counter in Toys R Us and just got the pistol. And thank God, because none of my friends got laser tag. None of them. One guy, Jay Skinner, came over and he wore the Target thing. And we ran around for an afternoon, kind of doing manhunt with him wearing the Target thing. But that was it. That was it. But yeah. Transformers, huh?
Transformers. Well, Robotech was my favorite cartoon.
Oh, nice. No. Hold that Valkyrie up. Let's see that bad boy.
This is the original Jetfire from Transformers.
Yeah,
all yellow
man.
And missing stuff, and maybe I can't pull the legs apart anymore.
Oh, I find there's a moment where in some of those old Transformers where you have to pull it so hard, I just fear breaking it. But I remember as a kid, you'd crack.
We'll just say it's still a plane. That's
there you go.
There you go. That's probably
doesn't
the
need to be a
safest
robot.
route.
That's fine.
Yeah, the old.
But, I have the hover tank around here somewhere too.
The hover tank.
From the second series of Macross with Dana Sterling.
Oh, yeah. When they started doing like the Sentinels and Southern Cross and that sort of thing. Yeah. But
no, Jimmy, you're not hallucinating. They had laser tag in the same way that you do. Like, well, they still do it now. There's still laser tag arenas. Yeah. Our boys, their scout troop, their cub troop went to one, and they hunted. They mostly hunted each other and.
Yeah, we had a couple of those in Orlando, and I did that a few times. It was in the early 80s, I think. I remember it starting out in Texas. It was Photon.
Yes.
You got like a helmet that had this like clear plastic doohickey, like a face mask, and you go and you do Photon, and then the Worlds of Wonder guys, I think, were just like, Yeah, but here's the gun and a thing, and you can just run around in your neighborhood and do it. You don't need that. And so that Photon kind of started to go huge, and then other companies just kind of cannibalized their business.
I remember those things stayed around for a long time because when I was going to college in the mid 90s, I remember we went to a Photon place, and it was great because they sold beer if you were old enough to buy it.
Nice.
So you were
Drunk
drunkenly
Photon.
playing.
Drunk Photon. I love it. I think that's absolutely the way to do it. CB72 said I played laser tag in the forests of North Vancouver.
Nice.
Excellent.
Get a very Endor vibe going on there.
There you go. That man, why didn't the Star Wars guys like a Rebel blaster and a Stormtrooper blaster? Lucas should have just like jumped on that. Played Kabuki played Photon in Wildwood. Her fest failed to work and she got cheated. We did Quasar because there was a Quasar center in downtown Orlando. I did that a few times, and once I got a vest that didn't work, but it means I was cheating everyone else because they couldn't take me down.
I don't know. You're just missing. That's all.
Yeah, sorry. I'm fine. That was good times. So, gentlemen, I think we've wrung about all the nerdy juice out of this month's show we can. Any closing thoughts, Yang?
Don't use CloudStrike. That's
we forgot to talk about CloudStrike. Yeah, don't use CloudStrike. Every computer has to be touched. It has to be physically gone to. So when you go through an airport, you see the big screen with all the graphics and stuff like that. There's a little mini computer running Windows, sitting bolted on the back of that. Somebody has to bring a keyboard and mouse to it and come to it to fix the problem. You can't do it over the network if it got hit with that. Did you get affected by that, either one of you guys?
Not me, but I have someone who's supposed to come on the show Tuesday night, and he's like, "Hey, I'm stuck in Texas. I don't know if I'll be able to get home in time on Tuesday for the show."
Yeah. No, nothing personal, but I mean the airports here, as everywhere, were affected. Largely the airports. I think a couple of things we saw that said that they weren't taking debit transactions because of it, but not a lot.
Yeah,
it seems like this happens every once in a while. There'll be some, because this happened a few years ago. It wasn't CrowdStrike. It was some other piece of software that everyone uses for their banking, and it went down and took out. At least here in Canada, it took out a whole swath. So you couldn't go to anywhere to do any what do they call it? Pay
point of sale.
Point of sale. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Alzheimer's doesn't run in my family. It gallops. So you couldn't do any of that for 3 or 4 days until they figured it out.
Yeah, my wife works in travel for her government office. She basically spent Friday morning watching Bones reruns because she could not schedule anyone because DTS was having problems. Yeah. And if you're out there listening and you know what that means, I will deny that I ever said it. I will edit this video out. But yeah, so no CloudStrike hit us here at the Delver's Dungeon, and hopefully won't really seriously impact any of us. So. Next time, we will be in the sweltering month of August. I'm not sweating bullets right now. It is Gary Gygax's birthday next weekend, next Saturday, July the 27th. I have a big announcement Saturday evening. I will do it live. You don't want to miss it. Huge show announcement. Be there for it because it's big. It's big. It's the biggest announcement, folks. It's a very good announcement. You're going to love it. You're going to huge. It's going to be huge. You're going to say, Delva, stop announcing, but we're going to keep announcing.
No one's ever seen an announcement like this before.
This is the best announcement. So Yang, you've got a guest coming tomorrow. Can you tell us who it is?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, I'm sorry.
He is Tyler C. World from Draw and Talk on YouTube. He also publishes comic books. Going to be talking about his latest comic, Bullet Assassin, but also he is kind of a indie marketing guru online. So he'll be giving lots of tips on, how do you get eyeballs on your projects? How do you go about finding people? How do you grow a YouTube channel? How do you, when you get a customer or get people to look at the channel, how do you get them to actually buy your stuff? How do you keep them interested once they have bought your stuff? So it's going to be a great time.
Excellent, man. Excellent.
Silly goose time, as he would say.
I'll have to catch that on the replay. I'll be playing some AD&D on Tuesday night. Dungeon Minister, have you got a video coming out this week? A game recap video?
There's a game recap in the works. I just started last night on the shaping the content because I trim out all the gaffes, the bad takes, etc. So I'm getting that into. Then I go back a second time and I add in all the goofy stuff. But that's coming up, and I'm continuing to work on the model of the keep that I'm making, the 3 foot by 3 foot model of a keep that appeared in the campaign. So that I've got those videos in the works as well. So.
Excellent.
If I might, one more. If everybody, if you check out empireoftheundyingsun.com, that's the website for my horror campaign guide, compatible with D&D 5th edition. We'll be launching it at the end of September, just in time for spook season. It is a lot of fun. And if you go on the site, click on the profile link, it's on all the way on the right, you will be able to sign up for the newsletter. If you sign up for the newsletter, you will get one free module written by none other than the Dungeon Delver. Should be ready to launch that module in by the end of the month. It is going to be a lot of fun. That module is called Fairy Hill, and it will be compatible for 1E and 5E. You can get whichever version you like.
That's right, kids.
Or
First
both.
edition AD&D, or both. Well, gentlemen, I think I'm going to go hydrate before I collapse. Thank you both for being here. Thank you to our audience. You guys are all awesome. Please subscribe to Yang Yan Zhao's channel and Dungeon Minister's channel and this channel right here, and stay tuned for future announcement about future showings of the Nerd Council of Doom. I wish everyone in the world the best. Peace. Love you all.